Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Farzy Show here at the Steven Singer Studios. My name is Marc Farzetta. We have so much to get into for today. One is following what the heck happened yesterday with the Phillies trade that looked okay. Wasn't anything great. I certainly don't think it was the end-all, be-all for the trade deadline deals, but it was supposed to happen. I went into an event last night thinking it did happen. It did not happen. So, of course, that actually ended up messing. Here's the funny thing about sports when you work in the sports industry, I guess, is that certain things happen and it affects your life. And I always, whenever I get an opportunity to talk to kids and people that want to go into the business or whatever it might be, I'm always saying to them, you start out with the mindset of something like, wow, the MLB trade deadline affects my life. Cool. And that's how you feel when you're like 21, 22, whatever, jumping into the business for the first time. And then you get to be like close to 40, and it's like, oh my God, the MLB trade deadline affects my life. And you don't really have the same kind of beauty about it. There's not the same romance surrounding it. And last night would be an example of that, because Matt Gelb of the Athletic was all set to come on and talk some Phillies baseball with us. And unfortunately, right around the time he was supposed to come on with us, right after the Phillies game, all hell broke loose regarding this Tyler Anderson trade that never ended up happening. So he had to scramble to write another story on this not happening. So unfortunately, well, it's not that I don't want to just talk to you guys and have this fun, just you and me and us just hanging out. But Matt Gelb couldn't be on the show, so we'll get him another time to talk some more Philadelphia Phillies baseball. But this is how it all played out last night. We'll go through everything. We'll follow the bouncing ball when it comes to the tweets from Jason Stark, Ken Rosenthal, and Jeff Passan, as they were following this story very closely. I first saw it reported from Jason Stark that the trade was going to go down, even naming the prospects involved, and we'll get to that. We got some Eagles conversation we got to get to. Lane Johnson showing up yesterday at the NovaCare Complex. If you ever question how much Lane Johnson loved his offensive line coach, well, he answered any questions you might have about how much he loves Jeff Stoutland. We'll show you some photos about the Eagles reporting to training camp. Bryce Harper has some interesting comments after last night's game that we'll get to today, issuing, I believe, and it's something Harper hasn't done before, issuing a challenge to his front office about getting some more pitching on this team. And then, of course, we have some 76ers conversation to get to. Looking back on the Toronto Raptors trade that was shut down, and also talking about Ben Simmons and his relationship with the 76ers as it is right now. But I want to start with this little thing we did last night. So being part of Buzz Sports and Entertainment, Josh Weinfeld, who runs the business here, I get to go to some great events. And I just want to start out the show by acknowledging a great event that I was at last night. A friend of mine, Natalie Aganoff, was at last night. Jeff Mosher was there last night. Riley Cote was there last night. As you've come to know, excuse me, in the chat, producer Jim was at last night, working the cameras and all that fun stuff. Daryl Reynolds was there last night. This was an event for the Ertz Family Foundation, and it was held in Center City, and it was just an incredible experience. And what the Ertz Family Foundation is trying to do is they want to help out a community center, essentially, in North Philadelphia that'll help families. Pastor Rob is the guy that's running the community center. And I had never met him before. I'd only heard the tale of the great Pastor Rob. And they addressed a crowd of about, 100 people, close to 100 people, maybe a little over 100 people last night, about how they could help this community center in North Philadelphia. I was taken back by how much people wanted to help. Especially in tough times. A lot of people coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people still in the pandemic, obviously dealing with things that's fallout from the pandemic, and people are just ready to give and just wanted to know more information about how they could give and how they can help the community. And I'm really impressed with athletes and most of them, as we know, are not from Philadelphia, but I'm very impressed with athletes that aren't from here, but they are already part of the community. And Zach and Julie Ertz are two people that are very much a part of the community, and they want to do a lot to help out the community. I want to tip my hat to them, to Lisa Ertz, Zach's mom, or Zachary, as she says, for all the stuff that they want to do in Philadelphia. And whenever there's a holiday or whatever it might be, it's always Zach and Julie looking to see what they could do throughout Philadelphia to help those in need. And I remember when the pandemic started, I was on the phone with Josh, who runs, again, Buzz Sports Entertainment, And he said, look, they want to get the word out about Phil Abundance. The Ertz family wants to get the word out about Phil Abundance. And they were literally the first phone call that I got in terms of, we want to get the word out there about people donating. And they got Zach and Julie obviously donated to start things off. Jason Kelsey later donated to help things out with Phil Abundance. Lane Johnson later donated. And it was all the charge was led by the Ertz Family Foundation. And I remember they were the first Zoom call I ever did. Like, you think about over the last couple of months, how many Zoom calls you've done. And my first Zoom interview, my first Zoom anything was with Zach and Julie Ertz when they wanted to get the word out about Phil Abundance and donating to make sure that throughout the pandemic, when people are falling on hard times, they would have something to eat. So I want to give my hat tip to the Ertz Family Foundation and everything that they're able to do for the community, and everything they continue to do. It was a great event last night. So many awesome people were out there. Alejandro Bedoya was there from the Philadelphia Union, so I got a chance to catch up with him. So many great people, and I just want to thank them for putting on such a great event. And it was my great honor to play the role of MC. I spoke for like 5 minutes. That's all I did. I just said, hey, ladies and gentlemen, here's Lisa Ertz, Zach's mom, Zachary's mom. That's pretty much all I did. So I get home last night, and I turn on the Philadelphia Phillies, and I'm already aware that they, after a night where they hit 2 separate 3-run home runs in the game, they then go ahead, and so kind of them, they give them right back with Matt Moore pitching for them yesterday. Josh Bell hit a blast. Juan Soto, who's one of the hottest hitters in baseball, not named Shohei Ohtani, he hits a 3-run home run as well. And it was just an insane game. And you had a couple of different moments there that you thought the Phillies would come back. You had a inside-the-park home run from Bryce Harper, followed by another home run from Andrew McCutchen. It's still amazing to me Andrew McCutchen's going to be a 20-home-run hitter. And I know in baseball nowadays, that's nothing to brag about. That seems to be industry standard. But still, for a guy like Andrew McCutchen, who's, 33 years old, coming off another injury, he comes out last night and gets you another home run, which is just great. And you thought the Phillies were going to come back. Gene Segura, we'll get to the good and the bad of him, but he gets on second base to lead off the 9th inning. You think maybe they'll get some magic back. Maybe they'll get some of that magic going for them again. Maybe they'll do that thing that we all talk about when it comes to really good teams, or they find a way to win. Last night was not that example. They fell short. But for me, the two headlines, really the major thing here is after the game, Bryce Harper goes into his press conference and says it's tough to win when you got to score 6, 7, or 8 runs every single night. The pitching in this league is too good to go out there and do that consistently. He also talked about how they got to play from behind. Now, just think about this for a second, because in baseball, I guess we don't tend to separate things nearly as much as we would in football, where there literally is 2 separate units, an offense and a defense. But could you just imagine for a second if Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, or this upcoming season, Jalen Hurts, goes out there and says, oh, yeah, it's really tough to win, football games when you got to constantly score 40 points a game, something like that. Could you imagine the split, the divide in the locker room, the clubhouse, the dressing room, whatever it might be, when you have an offensive player talking about how bad the defense is and how good you have to be as an offense to make up for the shortcomings of your defense? Because that's essentially what Bryce Harper did last night. And guess what? I'm here for it. Normally, I'd be like, how dare, what about you doing more of your job? Well, Bryce Harper's been pretty amazing as of late, so I can't really go at him too much for any offensive woes this team is having. But when it comes to what's going on with his pitching staff, hey, I think the vast majority of the fan base, Bryce, goes, yeah, keep on preaching, brother. Keep on talking. This is a direct challenge to the front office, to Dave Dombrowski, to say, hey, go out there and get something done. And if there's any positive you can take about last night, about any trade that was supposed to happen that unfortunately didn't go through, at least you know right now that Dave Dombrowski is looking to make moves. And I don't think by any means Tyler Anderson was a guy that Dave Dombrowski was saying, well, here's my deadline move, everybody. This is the move we're going to make. This is what we're going to do. All right, let's go get the NL East. That was not the move. I think if Zach Eflin never gets hurt, you're not making this move now. You're at least not attempting to make this move now. I still think there's a much bigger deal out there than just trying to go out there and getting Tyler Anderson from the Pirates. I think you're going to go out there, you're going to try to get Craig Kimbrell. I think that it's been well reported that they're very much in on those conversations to get the veteran closer in here in Philadelphia. I think they're going to be in on the Rodriguez deal with Pittsburgh. He hasn't been dealt yet, and I think the Phillies definitely have their eyes on him as maybe a plan B. And I do think they're going to be at least making phone calls when it comes to Chris Bryant to see what exactly the asking price is going to be. I don't think the Phillies have in the cupboard what they're going to be asking for in Chicago for Chris Bryant. But I do think there's a couple of positives to take away from at least what they tried to get in Tyler Anderson, considering who they were trying to give up to get a starting pitcher. That's it. Just going to start, get a body. That's it at the back end of the rotation. So that's a good sign. Maybe if because this fell through, maybe they start looking at Cole Hamels a little bit more seriously. Although I haven't heard too much chatter about anybody else in Major League Baseball really banging down that door for Cole Hamels, which does not go as a good sign for either the Phillies acquiring him or really the former Phillies lefty making his way back into Major League Baseball. So we'll continue to follow that story. But the major headline for me coming out of last night was what Bryce Harper had to say. And he is not wrong by any means. Would you think, a bad teammate, you got to keep that stuff in the clubhouse and all that? Not necessarily. Bryce Harper has never been one to be quiet. And there's no better example of that than listening to him talk about JT Realmuto over the years and how the Phillies needed to re-sign him. And even just going through extended spring training last year when they were at Citizens Bank Park and JT Realmuto was hitting home runs in batting practice or simulation games, whatever, and you have Bryce Harper yelling back to ownership, sign him. And then, of course, the fans took over from that. No better example than the Fandemic crew taking up that cause. So Bryce Harper is not shy about telling you what he wants the team to do. And last night he's telling you, we need more pitching. We need more consistent pitching. We can't continue to say, Vince Velasquez, go out there every fifth day. We can't look at a guy like Matt Moore and say, hey, guess what? Go out there every fifth day. That's not how this team is going to win the division. It's certainly not how this team's even going to come close to competing for a wild card. And last night, you have the Braves just stomping the Mets. Jared Eichhoff, man, his numbers now pitching for the Mets are just insanely terrible. He's having his best starts for the Phillies for the Mets, as the old joke would go. But the Phillies need to step up here, and they need to get some pitching help. And last night they tried. So let's follow the bouncing ball, folks. This is what we had happen last night. So I'm getting ready to go to the Ertz Family Foundation event. And I see a little report here from Jason Stark, Hall of Fame writer, formerly the Inquirer. Jason Stark puts this out here. Left-handed pitcher Tyler Anderson scheduled to start for the Pirates tonight, but multiple sources say that's not likely to happen. The Pirates are in serious conversations to trade him to the Phillies for 2 second-tier prospects. When you see the second tier, it feels more like third tier, and we'll get to that in a minute. But that comes out. And that's before I'm gonna get ready to go to the event. I'm thinking, all right, this is great. Phillies are going to make some moves. The ball, it started already. And my first thought, again, was if Zach Eflin doesn't get hurt, they're not making this deal. So they go out and they make the deal. At least they attempt to make the deal. Follow the bouncing ball. Next up here, Jason Stark has a little side note here just to continue, just to make you think about that threshold, that luxury tax threshold. He puts this out there. One more note on the Phillies Tyler Anderson deal. He's owed about $1 million the rest of the season. That leaves the Phillies with about $3 million under the luxury tax threshold. One rival exec said today they're going over the threshold if they need to. That's not even an issue. All right, Dave Dombrowski, John Middleton, the Buck cousins running this ship. Good on you. Not afraid to go over the threshold. We always thought that threshold was ironclad. We thought it was a gate with a giant lock on it saying, yeah, you're not going past here. You're not going past this velvet rope, whatever it might be. And that seems to not be a problem at all, at least not this year. So when you start talking about a guy like Chris Bryant, when you start talking about a guy like Craig Kimbrell and the money they're owed on their deals, the money's no object right now for the Phillies. And if they're going to go over that luxury tax, they're going to make it worth it. I'll tell you that much. So we continue. This is where things get a little dicey. Ken Rosenthal, 6 o'clock last night, starts to rain on People's Parade. Love Ken Rosenthal, and here's the tweet. The Pirates' trade of Tyler Anderson to the Phillies has been held up because of an issue, presumably medical. He was right. With one of the 2 players going back to Pittsburgh, according to a source with knowledge of the situation. Unclear where talks stand. whether player will be replaced or not. So the two players that were involved in the deal for Tyler Anderson are guys that are in the single A level. 20-year-old right-handed pitcher Christian Hernandez and a 21-year-old, I believe, catching prospect Abraham Gutierrez. One of those two players had a medical issue, reportedly, and that's why the deal didn't go through. We close it out with Jeff Passan of ESPN, who tweets this out. The Seattle Mariners, people. The Mariners. They're finalizing a deal to acquire Tyler Anderson from the Pirates. Pirates thought they had a deal done for Anderson with Philadelphia, but it fell through on medical review. Seattle, they went and got him instead. It then gets rounded out by Ken Rosenthal simply saying he identifies the one of the players that was going back there had a medical issue, essentially, I think failed the physical is the old way to put that. No idea what that issue is, but Phillies had somebody slip right through their fingers that would have made them a better baseball team. And following Jason Starks tweeting about this and putting out numbers and all that stuff, he went back and looked at their starts throughout the season. And it was something along the lines of Tyler Anderson in 18 starts has gone at least five innings in 18 starts this season. He's at least gone 5 innings in all 18 of them. Vince Velasquez has gone 6. 6 of 18 starts. He's gone 5 or more innings. At least 5 innings. So, yeah, he at least would have been an upgrade. And that's all we're talking about, is being better than what you have right now. That's it. That's why when I talk about Cole Hamels, if he's good enough to be a pitcher in Major League Baseball, then he's probably better than Matt Moore. He's probably even better than Chase Anderson. Hey, remember that name? He's probably better than Vince Velasquez. That's it. We're not looking for him to come in here and be a number 1, number 2, even number 3 starter. We're looking for somebody to come in here and be a number 4 starter. So when you look at some positives here, there's 2 positives. One, the Phillies are already looking to make deals to at least make the back end of the rotation better, and that's what Tyler Anderson signifies. The other thing is, man, that's a low buy right there. That's not an expensive cost. You had Jason Stark describe them as second-tier prospects. Yeah, the guys are down in a single A, 20 and 21-year-old. If that's all you're going to be giving up to get a back end of the rotation type guy, then you know what? Dave Dombrowski wasn't lying when he told you he had things in the cupboard willing to trade, willing to wheel and deal to bring in another starting pitcher to Philadelphia. So as far as that's concerned, anything else that you're talking about, maybe adding Craig Kimbrell, maybe adding a Chris Bryant, I still think they don't have what it takes to get him. So that's a fish a wish, perfect scenario. That ain't happening as far as I'm concerned. I'd love to see it happen. I'm rooting for it. I'm not betting on it. As I like to say. But when it comes to somebody else like Rodriguez or Kimbrell, maybe you do have enough without having to give up any of your top-tier prospects in a Bryson Stott, for instance, even a Mickey Moniak maybe. I don't think you're going to have to give those guys up in order to bring in a Craig Kimbrell or bring in Rodriguez or bring in anybody else of somewhat decent note that are going to be have a big impact on this team. I'm still rooting for the Aaron Nola that we saw just pitch the other night to be the guy that we see for the vast majority of the rest of this season. Because as I said yesterday, that right there will be the biggest attribute or acquisition the Phillies can make for the second half of the season after the All-Star break, is getting that version of Aaron Nola. Him and Zach Wheeler at the top of the rotation. That's the party you want to see for the rest of the year. You round out the rotation by adding another veteran arm, which is what Tyler Anderson would have been. Things will be looking up for the Phils. And yeah, if their bats can stay hot, and they still scored for you last night. They still had back-to-back home runs, including the inside the park home run by Bryce Harper, which was great. They still put up runs. It just would have been nice to have we talk about bullpen help all the time. They still need some help when it comes to this Phillies team and the rotation. So bullpen is great. We got to get help there. But when it comes to the rotation, they needed a lot of help there as well. We can't leave that out of the equation. I know we focus on the bullpen, but we got to keep adding to the rotation. The Phillies have to keep adding to the rotation. And here we are, 2 days away from the MLB trade deadline. I'm excited. I think there is a significant move coming. I think it's a move that will get people excited in Philadelphia for the first time about playoff baseball in quite some time. And I go back to, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There's a couple of things that need to happen here, and I think this is a good roster to have. I think this is a good roster to make additions to. And this is the comparison I'll make. A couple of years ago, Phillies made some good acquisitions at the deadline. Matt Klentak made some good acquisitions at the deadline. Wilson Ramos was one of the guys he added. Asdrubal Cabrera was one of the guys that he added. He got some bullpen help as well. So the Phillies added some guys at the deadline that you thought would have taken them over the top. Everywhere else, though, it was too young a team. I mean, Rhys Hoskins was still being looked at as a guy to be carrying this team as a team leader. Not ready to do that. This team, I think, with Bryce Harper, with JT Realmuto, and Rhys Hoskins already here, Andrew McCutchen, Gene Segura, I think you have enough veterans on this team, enough good hitters on this team, to the point where if you get a little bit more of the starting pitching, you get a little bit more of the bullpen help, especially a closer, a significant closer, a legitimate bona fide closer, Kimbrel, then I think you'll have enough to be able to get past the Mets, sustain what the Braves might be doing in the second half of the year as well, despite losing Acuna. I think you'll have enough to get you over the top because of the core that you already have in place. Before, the core that you had when you made some good trade deadline acquisitions, like Matt Klentak did do, I don't think the core was good enough to withstand what was going to happen in the second half of the season despite adding. I think you have a good enough core right now where you can add a couple of more pieces and you can start really talking about the playoffs. But from the outside looking in is kind of how the Phillies are looking at the playoffs right now after last night, after losing, and then seeing the Braves pass them in the standings with how they handled the Mets. So there's a lot the Phillies have to do, but I think a couple of pieces right there will put them over the top in terms of really contending and almost promising you those meaningful games in September, which right now, that's all I'm rooting for. That's what I'm crossing my fingers for. Give me those meaningful games in September, please, and thank you. So we'll continue to follow that. Yesterday, this was great. I love this, and I miss Lehigh. I do miss it. I miss going to Westchester. I told you the story yesterday about Refrigerator Perry and all that. I miss training camp being an event. And being a training camp ever since Chip Kelly moved it from Lehigh to NovaCare, and I totally get why. You have all the state-of-the-art equipment and all that stuff. It's great, whatever. I miss the experience, and I hate that kids growing up now won't have that experience of being able to, hey, we're going to Lehigh today. Like, I still remember, I'll never forget, my buddy Bennett and I, we went to training camp at Lehigh one time. We just on a whim, and while we were up there, and I think it was the TO year, yeah, I was a junior in college. I want to say maybe a sophomore in college. And I just remember we were saying, we're there and we're like, hey, what are the Phillies doing tonight? And I think they were playing the Braves that night. And they were playing a 7:05 game. And obviously the vet's still around. So we were just saying, hey, you just want to go to the game tonight? And I'll never forget, we came down, we stopped at Wawa, we got some hoagies, and we went and watched batting practice at the vet. And then we watched the Phillies, I think, lose to the Braves that night. And it was like one of those just great Philadelphia sports fan experiences that you get in a city with four major sports, where you can always do the boom boom. You can always go to two different things. And I love going up to Lehigh. NovaCare is a different thing, but I still enjoy the seeing the guys. And you see this. The Lehigh equivalent was seeing the guys move the big screen TVs into Lehigh, into the dorm rooms. Now what we see is Lane Johnson walking into the NovaCare complex with a backpack saying into John Clark's phone, back to school. That's what it looks like. It looks like a back to school event now. But Lane Johnson shows up yesterday wearing a jersey. Is that what you call that? Of his offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland. I don't know if Jeff Stoutland ever wore the number 64. But there he is. There's Lane Johnson wearing his offensive line coach's jersey. I guess it is. Jersey. Whatever it is. That's how much he loves his offensive line coach right there. So that's getting underway today. Look forward to hearing from Nick Sirianni when he addresses the media. And a couple of things that I'm looking forward to in training camp. One, I'm looking forward to see how Steven Nelson is able to take the reins as the starting cornerback opposite Darius Slay. Avonte Maddox in a more comfortable role of playing in that nickel spot. And I'm also looking forward to seeing, number one, first and foremost, whatever happens in the not-too-distant future when it comes to Deshaun Watson or any trade that could be happening there. And I'm not swaying. I still feel Deshaun Watson will be a member of the Eagles at some point. Can't say I feel great about that, but that's just predicting what's going to happen. It's not what I'm rooting for. I want to see Jalen Hurts. That sounds like the most obvious thing in the world, but right now, he is the starting quarterback of the Eagles going into the season. And I know it hasn't been said yet. Maybe Nick Sirianni officially says now that he's the starting quarterback. Maybe he's going to hold out even longer, saying that this is a guy that has to compete for the spot. He has to earn that spot. But when it comes to doing reps in practice, somebody's got to take number one reps. And I think that someone is going to be Jalen Hurts. I think it goes without saying. I think at this point, you're going to maybe wait a couple of weeks in training camp, as crazy as that might sound, before somebody really gets named the number one starter, because you can't talk about competition. And then when the competition finally gets here, you can't preemptively say, oh, yeah, and Jalen Hurts is my starter. You'll probably have him take first-team reps. You'll see him go out there and get the first reps and all that stuff. But I think it's going to be a matter of time here. Just like a trade is going to happen, I think it's only going to be a matter of time throughout training camp where someone is named eventually the starting quarterback. And what's crazy about that is that someone will be named it, and then they'll probably be making a trade to name somebody else that. But right now, for the time being, Jalen Hurts is your starting quarterback. I want to see everything. I want to see him with Devontae Smith. I want to see him with Jalen Reagor, who's talking a big game now on social media about how last year's in the past and having the injury gave him issues, as you would assume, last year in his rookie year. I want to see all that. I want to see Devontae Smith. I want to see Jalen Reagor. I want to see how all this works out with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert still being here. You're talking about an offense that is going to have weapons. I am excited and just flat out really curious about how Nick Sirianni's offense is going to work with the weapons that are in this offense. Because I think Devontae Smith's going to be a weapon. I think Jalen Reagor is a weapon. I certainly think Miles Sanders is a weapon in this offense. And you got two pretty damn good tight ends out there. I want to see how all this comes together. Offensive line obviously has to stay healthy. We're going to be following those stories as the season goes on. But right now, when you're watching this team and you're trying to figure out how it's all going to work, Nick Sirianni, you got a lot of pieces to the puzzle here. How are you going to put them all together so that it makes sense? And how are you going to put them together in a way that you can consistently score? And one of the things that he's got to correct, I know it's day one of training camp, but I'm just too excited for this. One of the things he has to correct is how god-awfully terrible the Eagles offense has been in the first quarter. Where's the quick strike? Where's the offense opening things up to give the defense a little bit of a break? Where has that been? Ever since the Super Bowl year under Doug Peterson, the offense has been terrible in the first quarter. You got guys on this team now that can be that quick strike offense. What did we talk about all the time? Whenever we talked about the possibility of, whenever we talked about Deshaun Jackson in the Eagles offense, whether that was his first go-around with the Eagles or when he came back, and even when he wasn't here, we always talked about how this offense lacked that quick scoring, home run hitting type of ability. Instant offense is what we always said. I think Jalen Reagor can be an instant offense guy. I think Devontae Smith, which is why I was so excited that the Eagles went and got him in the draft. I think Devontae Smith can be a quick scoring offensive guy, a home run hitter in this offense. Where all of a sudden it's 2nd and 7 and you're on your own 40-yard line. Next thing you know, bang, 6 points go up on the board because Devontae Smith just broke a slant route for another, 60 yards, whatever it is. Like, that's what I want to see. That's what I think this offense can bring. That's what I think they're capable of. How's Nick Sirianni going to call plays? How is he going to organize this talent? What's his game plan going to be? How is his what's his strategy going to be? What type of offense is he going to run? Is he really going to be doing the thing that every good coach should do, which is coaching to the talent you have and not making the talent fit your scheme? Is that the type of guy that Nick Sirianni is going to be? Because I hope so. I hope he's been saying it all along. He's got to coach to what he has. He can't square peg, round hole it. All right, great. Let's see it all come together. And it starts today when they'll be running around out there, shorts and shells, going through all that fun stuff at NovaCare, and we'll be following it along. And we'll be watching the videos. People will be tweeting out the videos, everything going on there at NovaCare, and we'll have as much fun as possible and get excited as possible. And it'll be kind of like spring training, where if a guy hits 5 home runs or 10 home runs in like a short span, I go, oh, that guy's home run champion of the season already. We tend to get excited. We tend to get a little excited, just a little bit, tiny bit excited. So that's what I'll be looking forward to as this goes on. One Flyers note. I gotta get to this. Keith Yandel, really? Another veteran blue liner for the Philadelphia Flyers. Free agency opens today in hockey. So, hey, Chuck Fletcher, man, wheeling and dealing. You want to talk about Dave Dombrowski already trying to make moves a couple of days ahead of the trade deadline? Oh, man, Chuck Fletcher's all over it. It's going to be a much different Flyers team going into next year. Jake Voracek obviously not being here is a big part of that, because he was, such a big part of the team, and he was so close with the captain, Claude Giroux. It's going to be a very different looking hockey team, and you're going to have, I think, a whole new attitude in Philadelphia with this Flyers team, and I am flat out giddy for it. So we'll talk about that, obviously, in the coming days. One more thing on the Sixers. Yesterday, we got a little bit into the Toronto Raptors deal. The bigger story for me is the Ben Simmons and Sixers front office lack of communication. And if I'm the Sixers and I wanted to hold on to Ben Simmons, there is no story out there. There'd be no smoke to the fire of me as the Sixers having communication with a guy I wanted to hold on to in Ben Simmons. There would be no smoke to that fire. There'd be no truth to that rumor, because I would be on the phone, texting, FaceTiming, sending gift baskets, housewarming presents for the house he bought in Los Angeles. Like, Ben, we want you. We love you. We want you to be here. We want you to be a Sixer for your entire career. Like, that's how I would handle this. With all the stuff going on right now, that's how you would handle it as the Sixers. But apparently that's not the deal at all. Not only can they not get in touch with this guy, apparently, according to the report, but they're already have a firm asking price out there. And I think it was Marc Stein that put it out there, saying that the Sixers offered Ben Simmons to the Toronto Raptors in a deal that would include a sign and trade, I believe, with Kyle Lowry, 3 years, $90 million. Anobi would be coming here as well from Toronto. Fred VanVleet, and the 4th overall pick. The 4th overall pick in this tomorrow's NBA draft. If I wanted Ben Simmons, those two stories, they ain't out there. And for this to happen so quickly after the season, and I know the finals just wrapped up, and I know you're looking at already, a month ago, the Sixers were in that Game 7 with the Hawks. If you wanted Ben Simmons to stay, those two stories about your trade package and what you would ask for in return, as well as not having communication with your 3-time All-Star facilitator, point guard, runner-up defensive player of the year, you ain't having those stories out there, because everything else would be kosher, and nothing's kosher right now. And I go back to Keith Pompey's story from earlier in the week, I believe it was Sunday's paper, that said inevitable. It's inevitable that Ben Simmons gets traded. I'm of the school of thought that it could have been saved. If both parties wanted to save this, if both parties had confidence and faith in one another, it could be saved. But the fact that right now it looks like the Sixers are looking at Ben Simmons and being like, this guy will never improve past what he is right now. We like what he is right now. We love what he is right now. But he could be better. And the Sixers realizing that and saying this guy's not going to take a step forward by expanding his game and taking the mid-range game and using that and everything else, every complaint that you have about Ben Simmons, that he won't improve upon it. All you really need to know is the Sixers have, it seems like, zero faith that he'll be able to improve upon his game. And everything else about off-season workout regimens is all just talk. It's all just talk. It's all just to make things seem nice before they actually make a deal. Inevitable. Maybe it's tonight. Maybe it's tomorrow during the NBA draft that they actually deal Ben Simmons. It could be happening. It could happen. With the detail that came out in the report with the return from Toronto, it makes me think that it is just around the corner. Right before the NBA draft, they could be making a deal to trade Ben Simmons. Could happen in the preseason, as Keith Pompey said. That's where it's most likely to happen. That's also where the Sixers would be probably in the best mindset to see what exactly Ben Simmons came back with, if he did improve his game at all in the offseason. But for me, all that would matter is really if Ben Simmons comes back And you see him in the preseason, you see him during the regular season, actually taking his game to the next level and expanding it. That's the only time I'll actually believe anything about him improving upon his already pretty damn good skill set. And this is what I have said many times, that I think Ben Simmons is close to an MVP candidate. How close? The guy doesn't shoot. And he got an MVP vote. That's how close he is. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? But that's true. And then watching Giannis, it's all about mindset. Giannis Antetokounmpo is better than Ben Simmons by far because of mindset, because of mentality, because he has that short memory. Excuse me. And Ben Simmons, that's the biggest thing that he lacks. If he had that same mindset, he'd be in the MVP conversation. The Sixers are looking at him saying he's never going to enter that conversation because he's not going to expand his game. And there's no better vote of confidence in that. There's no better reason to bet on him not doing it than the Sixers already being more than willing to unload him this early in the off season, quote unquote. It's unbelievable. My hope is that he comes back and he is taking it to the next level. The Sixers are giving me no confidence that actually happens. And the Sixers, as much as we might rail on a team for not knowing enough, I look at the 76ers and I say, oh, I would normally be like, they don't think this guy's going to come back. How do they not have faith in it? How do they not coach this guy up? How do they not bring him in and get the workouts in and all that? But the Sixers and Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers, two pretty experienced guys at the NBA level, are looking at it and saying, oh, yeah, no, this is as good as it gets for him. We can trade him now. I'm going to go ahead and believe them. And on top of that, what's not going to make the headlines, at least not yet, is the fact that Joel Embiid probably also thinks that Ben Simmons is not going to take his game to the next level. Because I firmly believe the Sixers' number one priority, and I agree with this priority, is making sure they're not wasting the prime years of Joel Embiid. And I think they look at Ben Simmons as a guy that would certainly add to wasting the prime years of Joel Embiid. I don't think the Sixers want to waste that. I think that's their number one priority right now, and I'm here for that as well. Like Bryce Harper calling out the pitching, Bryce Harper more or less calling out the front office. I am here for Joel Embiid saying, I can't win with this guy. And there you go. And for all the people that will jump to the conclusion that we ran Ben Simmons out of town, look no further than your front office. Look no further than your MVP candidate in Joel Embiid. That ain't us running him out. Seth Curry throwing his arms up in the air when Ben Simmons passed up on the dunk and passed him to Aussie star Matisse Thybulle. Yeah, that wasn't us running him out. That was Ben refusing to get better, a team flat out getting sick of it, and also a teammate, an MVP candidate, an MVP caliber player getting sick of it as well. It could happen. Ben Simmons could be in his last 48 hours as a 76er, last 24 hours as a Philadelphia 76er. So we'll continue to follow that story. Let me tell you about my good friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Do what I do for all your big diamond purchases, your big jewelry purchases. Go to Steven Singer Jewelers. A lot of people, you know what they do? Find someone they love. How beautiful is that, right? The easy part should be finding someone to love. Not for everybody, but it should be. You want to get engaged. Now you have the excuses. There's too much pressure. It's too expensive. I don't want to deal with a jeweler, whatever. Just go to Steven Singer Jeweler. Take care of you like your family. You walk in the door, you feel welcomed right out of the gate. You walk into Steven Singer Jewelers at the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Peruse the beautiful inventory that they have, and a real jewelry expert will be standing by to help walk you through everything. And here's what you also get. The perfect price every single day. Steven removes every excuse there is to go shopping for an engagement ring, to go shopping for a big jewelry purchase, a big diamond purchase. You go to Steven Singer, you know you're going to get taken care of with the perfect price every single time by a real jewelry expert. So do what I do. Go to Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there in Philadelphia. Check them out online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. I'm going to flip things around a little bit here. I'm going to highlight our fine people in our chat first with our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. So for the good people that join us throughout the chat every single day, it's much appreciated. So I'll get to you guys before we get to the rest of our sponsorship plugs. But I see April's on fire. just to get things started here. This is our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Main at steakandmain.com. Where are we at here? By the way, I think I officially coughed more times on this show already than I did yesterday. So that's what I got. Let's see. Of course, April, because it wasn't for me, no one would know the weather because Farzy is a fraud with the weather. How is this a thing still? Great 98% of the time. Don't get me wrong. Oh, thank you, Luigi. I appreciate that. Massive fraud with the weather reports. Luigi, I wasn't making it a bit. Maybe we'll make it a bit. Do you want it a bit? What am I doing? Why am I even asking? Of course you wanted us a bit. Right? You don't stare at my fat face every single second of the show? No, of course not. You want a lovely young weather lady. It doesn't have to be young. She just be a lovely lady, whatever. And, maybe I'll bring in a dude. You know what? For April and the other people in the chat, I'll just have a dude do it. How about that? Well, maybe we'll alternate. Weather Fridays. Personal note. I'm in the dark ages right now. That reminds me. I don't have my phone. I take an Uber back from the event last night. Get home. Phone must have fallen out in the car, or maybe I just put it on the seat next to me for a second. I'm phoneless. I feel like the Middle Ages over here. So that's my life right now. I'm totally flustered without my phone. But I'm shocked that it took me 42 minutes into the show to even acknowledge that to you, because I know most of the people watching go, oh, my God, are you okay? You don't have your phone? Are you all right? Do you want to talk? Anyway, I was already able to get in touch with Uber, and I'll get it back later today, so that's exciting. Anyway, but yeah, that's my life right now. I was about to give you the weather report, but I don't have my phone. What else do we have? Let's see. Massive fraud. Thank you, Luigi. Good morning once again. Dan saying, where is Benny? Are we worried about Benny? Are we officially worried about Benny? If we're officially worried about Benny, you know what I'm talking about here.
Dan and everybody in the chat, I am not an animal.
He is if he kidnapped Benny. I haven't talked to Mike Sealski yet. I'm going to check in and just make sure he didn't kidnap Benny. So, Benny, if you're out there, just let us know you're okay. Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee. What else? Jared Eichhoff stink. Alex checking in. Eichhoff does stink. Did I write down the numbers? Jared Eichhoff, and this is Jason Stark. If you're not following Jason Stark on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, you're doing yourself a disservice. Jason Stark on Jared Eichhoff, who got blasted last night by the Atlanta Braves. Jared Eichhoff, 17 runs in his two starts as a New York Met. 17 runs, 21 outs. 21 outs. 17 runs. By the way, I like Jared Eichhoff. I've interviewed him a number of times. Nice dude. But yeah, Alex, Eichhoff does stink. April, yeah, if Vinny V is who we have to rely on, we are screwed. I confirm. Matt's checking in saying, ouch, imagine being the alleged second-tier prospects. You ain't wrong. Max checking in, Fars Nation. I like that, Mac. Thank you. What did Lefko says? What did Lefko call you wonderful people? The Farzies? I don't know. Farzi's Army? Something like that? I don't know. Whatever it is, I like it. Brett's checking in saying, my dumb butt was on Twitch, missing out on the party. Brett, welcome to the party, pal. What up, peeps? Well, hey, what up, Brett? Welcome in, man. Brian's checking in with the angry, snarling, angry snot and not smoke out of the nostrils emoji, the angry emoji, the Ben Simmons emoji. I'll take Chris Bryant. Yeah, so will I, Brian. I'm with you there. Definitely a Philly if someone was held up. What the hell? I don't know. Dan Schwartz has a COVID thing here. I'm trying to get my mind in order here. I did get my COVID test back. I went for the 24-hour, the rapid test the other day. I told you that. That came back negative. When I went to the doctor for my checkup, or for my because I was feeling sick, they asked me, as I told you the other day, do you want to take another COVID test? And I said, if you're asking me, like, I don't want to say no to it, especially if I'm flying on Friday. So I take the second COVID test. Got the results back yesterday. I'm fine, negative, no big deal. So I'm good as far as that's concerned, which made me feel good because, again, I had COVID back in November and I got vaxxed. I'm fully vaxxed. I'm all vaxxed up. I got the double jobs, as our friend Dave was telling us the other day. So I wanted to make sure I got that out there. And Trey Turner, oh my God. Last night, I'm looking at the game, watching the game. Trey Turner beats out the play at first base and comes around to score. And they got a shot of him on third base where he's kind of squatted down. He's holding his batter's helmet, and he just looked flushed. And I saw the shot. I looked at him, and I went, what the hell's wrong with that guy? Like, you just looked at it. Like, sometimes you can just look at a person and be like, what the hell's wrong with that guy? And he looked like a guy who was drained. And, like, COVID didn't come to mind. Like, oh, he's got COVID. Because, what the hell? But he ends up getting pulled out of the game because of COVID. He had a positive COVID test. And he still beat out Didi Gregorius' throw to first base in the first inning. But I watched that, and I thought, man, something's really wrong with that guy. And then, of course, he got pulled out of the game because of COVID. If you haven't had COVID, what I likened it to, and I had like a mild case of it, was I had mono in college, and I was drained, totally drained. COVID for me, my experience with it was it was like having mono with a headache. That was it. It was like somebody unplugged me. It's like you look at your phone, not that I can because my phone's gone, but it's like looking at your phone and it's on 1%. And you go from like fully charged to 1%. Like, that's how it was for me. And I looked at Trey Turner and I was like, that guy is drained. Not that, again, I looked at him and went, oh, he's got COVID. But he just looked like a guy that was done. And then, of course, he gets pulled out of the game. I'm missing Chris stole it. I'm losing that. Sorry, fellas. That was another cough. I'm counting it. Then we got the counters going. Thank you. Medical marijuana school? Brett Fars, didn't you go to medical school for a year before going into radio? Did not. I did not do that. Mickey Mouse is better than Mickey Moniak. Mickey Moniak's been on a tear in the minor leagues. I know he's up at the big league ball club now, but he was on a tear in the minors. Had a nice little week there. I don't know. The party I want to be at seems like it was last night with you, Jeff Mosher, Natalie, and Cote. The Farzy tweet, Rick? Question mark? Dan, what are you saying there? I don't know. Rick's checking in saying, yeah, the stoner one. You guys are hilarious. April sent me a pretty cool thing on Instagram, or she tagged me in this. And it was a game you play called Puff Puff Pass. And it was a card game. It looked like something like Cards Against Humanity. And April made me go in the Wayback Machine because the thing was, because again, I was the straight edge. My friends would be just having themselves a time. And my job was the you fly, I'll buy. So I don't know how many free meals from like Wendy's I got with crispy chicken nuggets and Baconators, but I got a lot of them because I was okay to drive. So that's how I made my rounds in college. Going out there and do it. I remember one time my roommate said to me, my nickname in college was Goo. For those that don't know that. It's a long story. And he said, he's like, Goo, go to Gino's. It was like 2:00 in the morning. Go to Gino's and make it tell me a time you'll be back and make it impressive. And at the time we lived at 38 in Hamilton, in University City, West Philly, Pelton Village, whatever. And I remember it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I said, I'll be back by 2:25 with cheesesteaks, cheese fries, sodas, the whole thing. And I made it back. I don't know how I did it, but I made it back. Left at 2:00 in the morning, made it back at 2:22 in the morning. I don't know how it happened. Was I speeding? Absolutely. But still, even if you're speeding, it's still going through the city at some point. I made it back. It's one of the greatest accomplishments I ever had. It's up there with me making it back from Pittsburgh in 3.5 hours. From toll to toll. Pittsburgh toll to Philadelphia toll. Toll to toll. So King of Prussia, pretty much. Toll to toll. Out of Pittsburgh, back in 3.5 hours. One of my greatest accomplishments as a man. What do we have here? I read they're attending a Jonathan Papelbon bullpen session. Kutch renaissance with the season. I certainly hope so, Brett. April, I'm sorry. April, excuse me. April sent me down this path. I don't have a little faith in them. Just want the deadline to slide by. They won't just let the deadline slide by. I hope I'm wrong. No, the Phillies are going to make a move. I think the Phillies are going to make a significant move at the deadline. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what they do, in fact, do. Let's see. I don't think they're attending a Papelbon session. Jonathan Papelbon is one of the weirdest athletes to ever come through Philadelphia. Can you get copies of Hollis's collection? I still love the fact that, and Mac, thank you for saying that. I still love the fact that when I reached out to Hollis and I was like, hey, man, do you mind if we talk about this story? And he was like, damn, Skippy. Everybody knows that. Hollis is a weird cat, too. I love that guy. Lehigh was the best. Shouldn't have moved. I agree. How high was Marc in Lehigh? Brett, God bless you. Junior college? No. Let's see. I spot no lie. Junior in college. He got some hoagies, meaning weed. Wawa misses you, April? Oh, yeah. You're down there in North Carolina. No Wawa. That does suck. Has anybody had the Wawa meals? The cheeseburgers and like the pasta and stuff? Has anyone had that yet? I don't know anyone that's had it yet. Anyway, how are they doing with it is my question. It's Wawa, so it can't be bad. Someone should Travis Fulgham will have 1,000 yards. Oh, my old friend Pat Egan. I saw that. That came up in some, I think I saw that on Twitter. That's bold. I love you, Pat. That's bold. If he has 1,000 yards, then that better mean Devontae Smith has like 1,500. That better mean Jalen Reagor has 1,200. That better mean that like Jalen Hurts is just ungodly. It's just amazing. Just absolutely incredible and dispels any rumors that have to do with anything with the Philadelphia Eagles. Also in the Sixers report, it's a damn you, Sealski. Today, by the way, I did send a text. Oh, there I go, looking for my phone again that I don't have. I did text Sealski, and I said, I'll give you $50 if you jump on Jake Voracek's introductory press conference as a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I'll give you $100 if you say that you've been transferred to the Columbus Dispatch, or what is the Columbus something Dispatch, whatever it is, to cover the Blue Jackets, because I know that would make Jake really happy. Mally, good morning, Mally. What's going on? Let's see here. You guys are very kind to me. Thank you. And I do mean that. That wasn't sarcastic. But seriously, where is Benny? Thomas is checking in saying he's just flat out concerned about Benny. We're all concerned about Benny. Let's see here. I haven't seen that in a long time. So now Dan is responding, now just referring to me as Goo in the chat from my old college nickname. It was short for the Great Ragu, for the people that remember Laverne and Shirley. That's even before my time, but it's just whatever. Ray's checking in on the Phillies. What they need to do here, they need a starting pitcher, center fielder, and a closer. If they don't do that, it's a waste of time. Okay, so that's a lot. And I'd love to see the Phillies do all that. I don't think they're going to do all that. Starting pitching would be great. I think you can get that at a cost. And again, we'll see what happens with Cole Hamels in the not too distant future. I think the number one priority on the Phillies list right now, because I think they're looking at Odubel Herrera for what he is, which is an extremely streaky hitter. And I think they're going to have enough with him in center field. In terms of if other guys in this lineup, like your center fielder on this particular team, I know in baseball in general, people talk about how you need more from a center fielder from an offensive perspective. And I get what they're saying, generally speaking, but there's exceptions to every rule. And I know people talk about it a lot from third base. Oh, you need more home runs from a third baseman. You don't hit home runs with your glove. You hit home runs with your bat. So if the Phillies are getting more production from their catcher, their right fielder, their first baseman, their shortstop, and their second baseman from Gene Segura, typically not a big power spot, but at least a good hitter in Gene Segura, a professional hitter, as they say, then, yeah, you're not going to need that power production from other spots on the diamond. You just need it in your lineup. So right now, I think they look at the center field spot and they say they have enough there. As much as I'm sure they'd love to get Chris Bryant, I don't see that happening. But I think their number one priority, the most likely scenario, is that they do add a closer to the bullpen. I think when the trade deadline comes and goes, I think we're going to be looking at someone else who's going to be closing these games. It's not going to be Ranger Suarez. It's not going to be Hector Neris. It's not going to be Jose Alvarado. I think it's going to be Kimbrel. I think it's going to be Rodriguez. I think it's going to be somebody that's going to come in here of note to close out games for the Phillies. But in terms of other bullpen help, in terms of starting pitcher, I think the most likely, in terms of a center fielder, I think by far the most likely scenario for the Phillies is that they come out of the trade deadline with a bona fide closer, someone that you can have confidence in giving the ball in the ninth inning every single night to make sure they close out the victory. People want to call the police to try to find where Benny is. Benny, where are you? Let's see here. Dan's checking in. Gobbler from Wawa is where it's at. The Gobbler. Yeah, of course, the Gobbler. Any other no Wawa reviews for me? Mally's checking it saying, I swear Gigi hit the second baseman every damn at bat. It certainly seems like it. Yeah, Luigi, no, Gobbler is one of those things that it's easy to sneak in the Philadelphia Northeast / Ambler accent on the Gobbler. It's like going to college, for instance. I was just explaining this to people that weren't from Philly last night that were in town for the Ertz event. So, yeah. Anyway, that's our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Thanks very much for everyone checking in. Wawa's saying my kids say Wawa mac and cheese is pretty good. Yeah, that's nice. And it's solid. Now, my go-to, if I'm going to Wawa, I really like the quesadilla. I haven't had it in a while, but I do like the quesadilla at Wawa. And in terms of like ready-made sandwiches, I always went for the roast beef. I was a big fan of the roast beef. Big fan of the roast beef there. So that's what I got for you. Thanks for everyone checking in on our Steak and Maine social media check-in. Morning Rush has basically been the whole show today. So that's Sky Motor Cars. It's brought to you by Sky Motor Cars and SkyMotorCars.com. No guest. So we just talk about everything. That's how I roll, ladies and gentlemen. And that's been brought to you by Sky Motor Cars and SkyMotorCars.com. The guest that normally joins the show, they obviously call in on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line. So make sure that whenever you have an orthopedic need, if you have orthopedic issues, you need a physician who eats, sleeps, and breathes orthopedics, you need an exceptionally specialized Rothman Orthopaedics physician. They not only specialize in orthopedics, but each of their physicians only focuses in on one area of the body, which means you can have confidence that you can get past pain and be what you were. Learn more at RothmanOrtho.com. That's RothmanOrtho.com. Rothman Orthopaedics, the official orthopedic partner of your Phillies, Eagles, and Sixers. How about Steak and Maine? SteakandMaine.com. Fine dining in the heart of Northeast Maryland. Whether you dine in a more upscale steakhouse or casual bar and patio, you'll be enjoying the highest quality of prime meats, fresh seafood, world-class oyster bar, and freshly prepared sushi. All that in an extensive wine list, including their own Cavada Cellars wines. I always tell you, when you go there, 2-pound tomahawk steak, you're welcome. Nice Pinot Noir as well. Open every day for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Steak and Maine in Northeast Maryland voted #1 place for steaks in America by the Travel Channel and the Cooking Channel. Check it out for yourself. Go to steakandmaine.com for more information. Also want to tell you about our friends at FanUp. A lot of stuff going on with baseball. A lot of stuff going on with football just around the corner as well. So make sure you download the FanUp app right now in the App Store. Use promo code FANUP to get 2,000 bonus points just to get you started. That's the FanUp app because the days of playing fantasy sports alone are over. So make sure you download the FanUp app in the App Store right now to get 2,000 bonus points to get you started. Rise on their leaderboard throughout their weekly contests, their daily questions. You're going to have a lot of fun talking a lot of smack with your friends on the FanUp app as well. So download the FanUp app right now. Just be fans. And hopefully you're following all the crazy stuff going on in the world of sports. Deadlines coming up, drafts coming up. Hopefully you're doing that with PHL Sports Nation and PHLSportsNation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation, covering everything through blogs, social media, and everything. PHL Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. We're going to be talking a lot of Sixers ahead of the draft coming up on tomorrow's show. So we'll have a Sixers writer on to talk about everything there to get you ready for the NBA draft coming up. We'll see what the Sixers are wheeling and dealing. We'll continue to follow the Phillies as well. Thanks for joining the show today, everybody on the chat. Appreciate you guys. Good looking out. My thanks to Jim Hyden, producer Jim, for producing the program. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. My name is Marc Farzy. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everybody. Take it easy.